Hello, my name is Andrew Sheldon for the Oklahoma Progressive Network, and I am joined today by Rebecca Budd, a District 2 candidate for the Oklahoma City School Board. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I think this is wonderful that the network has decided to do this.
Thank you. Why don't you introduce yourself? Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and why you are running?
Great. My name is Rebecca Budd, and I am running for District 2, which for those that don't know is from Britton Road to 36, basically from Hefner Parkway to Lincoln. And I am a retired business executive. I spent 20 years in industry working on big projects, budgets, project management, operations. And about 4 years ago, my husband said, we're moving to Oklahoma City from our home in Dallas. And it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to leave my business career, but not my business skills behind. And I've been able to volunteer in Oklahoma City Public Schools extensively for the last 3 years. And what I've seen there is why I'm running. So the real reason, when you back it up, goes to where I'm from. I grew up in Sioux City, Iowa, and Iowa has fantastic public schools. And even though I grew up in a poor family, I was able to get a great education. And when I'm in our schools today, I see some kids that are getting a great education and a lot other that are being left behind. And I've been able to make a difference in one school. I've been able to get things done. I've been able to observe what's working and what's not. And when I look at how I can best serve my community, it's by being on the school board.
Fantastic. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just kind of jump into the questions. Right now, one of the hot button items, two of them I should say, that people are talking about are charter schools and voucher programs. What is your stance on charter schools? What is your stance on voucher programs?
Well, voucher programs, I mean, we were excited. I think the room I was in yesterday led up a collective cheer when it was defeated, or when the author of the bill pulled the bill yesterday. I'm against vouchers. I believe it drains money from our public school systems and puts it into private hands, which are unregulated and will actually lead to further segregation and problems with funding of public education. For charter schools, I am for charter schools that present a win-win for our school district, that are strategic and meet the needs of children that cannot be served by our district in the right way at this time, and charter schools that are equitable. And one of the things I'm really proud of is last year when they had the Quality Seats Initiative, I did extensive research on charters and the charters that we're presenting. And I took my research, especially on high dropout rates, withdrawal rates, suspension, and funding and board governance, to the administration. And because of my work, it led to them actually revamping their oversight of charter schools. And I think that what we've seen out of our board, and what I will continue, is looking at the data, holding our charters accountable, and making sure that they're fair to all students.
Okay. You had mentioned taking money away from our public schools in those instances. Segueing into the budget, everyone is aware of the budget crisis that we have in this state. Whether or not they have a child, they know what's going on with their school budget. In spite of that, what is your plan to help recruit and retain high-quality teachers?
Well, as a first-hand observer in a high-poverty elementary school, I can tell you right now that paying them more will help, but it will not address the root causes. Our teachers leave for a variety of reasons. A lot of them have to do with job satisfaction. We make their jobs very hard. The school board has not set its expectation with administration on class sizes. So we have very large class sizes, which makes it very difficult. They have to do a lot of preparation for their own curriculum. There is not the supports for discipline that they need. They also are short on materials and supplies. By cutting arts and music, they don't have what they need to work with their children in appropriate ways. And what I mean by that is that children need outlets besides just being in the classroom all day with instruction. And by not having those, we're creating more stress for our teachers. And so that's an example at the elementary school level, but we see it across all levels. And so when I met with the American Federation of Teachers, one of the first things I said is, Oklahoma City Public Schools is the 5th largest employer in Oklahoma City, but yet we have over a third of our teachers leave every year. So it's not the quality of employer that we need for the city, and it's not the quality of employer that we need to keep our teachers.
Okay. You had talked about, getting kind of like standards set up and whatnot. That kind of goes into my next question, which was about school performance. A lot of times people will bring up the charter schools or the voucher as the argument is that our school system has poor schools, or underperforming schools, I should say. So how will you hold schools accountable for their performance, and what is your plan to improve underperforming schools?
Well, I am very fortunate that I have spent extensive time working to help an underperforming school get better, and we've been successful this year. And so I look at how do you hold them accountable? First of all, everybody seems to want to get rid of testing. Testing has been going on since I was in the 3rd grade. Testing gives you a benchmark. What has happened with testing, however, is we've used it and reduced it down to a grade to hold schools accountable. And that has actually been detrimental because some of our highest quality schools that serve under high minority populations and high poverty have low grades. So when you're looking at how do you improve low performing schools, it's many of the same things that we know work, which is improving teacher retention, principal leadership, providing the support services, and then measuring what your inputs are how your inputs are being successful. And we have many models that have worked in this district, but the problem is they haven't been sustainable because our board has changed directions many times. So as a board member, I will put the right resources to the right schools and make sustainable programs.
Okay. As you know, some schools have gone to a 4-day school week. It's been on the news. People have talked about it, either for or against. What is your position on the schools adjusting their schedule to 4 days?
Well, I'm actually in favor of site-based management, and I'm in favor of local school districts having more control. The reason being is they are closest to the students and the parents. They are closest to the problem. A lot of people are under the mistaken impression that 4-day school weeks started because of the budget crisis. 4-day school weeks have actually been going on for several years now, and it's because of recruitment. For some of our small towns, it's really hard to get a high-quality teacher in a special area, especially like science and math, to drive an hour to an hour and a half to go work in a small town. And so they were using them as recruiting tools so that they could get a better quality pool of applicants. And it was very successful in many areas to get better teachers. And so they've adjusted their school day so they're still going the same number of hours with better teachers. And so that's why when I look at making mandates, whether it has to be a 5-day week, you're really taking away some of the successes that some of our schools have had in solving difficult problems.
So if a school district were to go to a 4-day week, what will you do to help ensure that the students in that school will receive the same quality education as students with a normal schedule?
Well, I think we have lots of measurements right now when we look at schools on how to evaluate the way they're doing things. They are mandated by the number of hours they have to do instructions. They're also mandated through testing. They're also mandated by the evaluations that they do and how their students are graduating and how those towns are doing with managing their boards. And so I think the biggest way you can look at how well a school system is doing is by how well the people in that town, do they stay or do they leave? Are they passing bonds? So that's sort of a long-term way to look at it. But I don't think there's anybody that gets held more accountable than school board members when people are unhappy with their children's activities and education.
So when we were talking about how to retain teachers, you talked about support for discipline. We've had a number of reports come out in the last couple of years, but last year in particular, we had a couple internal reports from the school district itself, as well as the Oklahoma Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights have their school to prison pipeline reports. These reports highlighted the fact that minority students with disabilities, they are disproportionately targeted for disciplinary actions in our school districts. What are your thoughts on the use of discipline in regards to minority students, in regards to disabled students?
Well, it's no doubt that minority students are disproportionately dealing with discipline issues. A lot of the reasons when you look why, it's because our current board has not created that as an impetus, as a defining strategic point to align on. So when we look at the supports that are given to schools, they're done equitably across middle-class white schools as they are black schools. And we're not using restorative justice in our schools. Individual principals have been successful, but as a whole, we still haven't made progress. And there are many reasons for that. And as a board member, having been on the ground at a school that has high discipline problems, I will insist that that be one of the highest priorities.
Sticking with discipline for just a second, the Oklahoma Senate has Senate Bill 81 that was just introduced not that long ago. I believe it passed committee last week. Mm-hmm. It lowers the threshold for school suspensions from the 6th grade down to the 3rd grade. Are there ways that we can improve or reduce disciplinary actions in our schools overall? Absolutely. And I, again, being in an elementary school that had 600 out-of-school suspensions not even 2 years ago, had 300 last year and is now down to 5, I can tell you that there are a lot of interventions that work. A lot of it is principal leadership, social work, support. It's also about teaching teachers about the types of actions that warrant different steps for disciplinary action. But I'm going to just tell you, like, for example, one really important thing to note. Again, as I said, our board has not made this a priority. Right now, in our department for discipline, which is called School Climate, it only has 10 employees. There are only 5 climate specialists. So these are the people that actually go to the schools to teach teachers and principals about restorative justice and about how to handle situations like this. So the one for the school I'm at has 18 other elementary schools. How effective can you be when you have 18 high poverty, low performing schools to teach? So that's got to change. And that comes straight from the board to making that a priority. And having seen it myself, that will be a priority. Fantastic. So that is all that I have as far as questions go. We do appreciate you coming out and talking to us. Do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with the voters? I do. I have been highly involved in our school system, and I've had the privilege of being at Martin Luther King Elementary. And just last year, it was targeted for conversion to a charter school. And a lot of people had the mistaken impression that people didn't care, that teachers had given up. And when I toured the school, I found just the opposite. I found teachers that were there all day, going the extra mile. But we had a school district that wasn't supporting their efforts and wasn't giving them the tools that they needed. And as I have spent time there doing everything from raising money to setting up systems to help discipline children to dealing with building maintenance, it's just reinforced to me that as a board member, it's really important to do your homework, to know what's going on with the issues, to spend a lot of time understanding the problems and not just accepting the popular view. It's important to talk to your constituents, and then it's important to make good decisions. I have done this at MLK over and over again. We've been very successful in turning around that school. As I mentioned, we went from 300 to 5 suspensions this year, and that's just one of our successes. I know that I can continue to be successful as a board member because I know what's going on. I do my homework, I put in the time, and I look forward to people voting for me. All right. Rebecca Budd, District 2 Oklahoma City Public School candidate. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.